Welcome to Sex, Lies, and Blank Pages with our very special guest, Joe Solari. Welcome.
Hello, hello, hello.
Yay!
Feel like I've been let into the secret lair.
I think that's about right. Definitely.
Quite disappointing, isn't it? You're like,
It's kind of a hot mess in here.
Yeah.
We need a cleaner.
You need a housekeeper.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Don't even look back there. It's a mess. But we know you, but for our audience who doesn't know us, P.S. audience, are you guys readers or authors? Because this is going to be a lot of the behind the scenes kind of action in this episode. But for everybody who's listening, Joe, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name is Joe Solari. I've been working with authors since, well, if you include my wife, since 2014. She's writes nonfiction, and I got pulled into this whole thing through helping her deal with, you remember the good old days of things like Create Space and trying to format books with pictures on Amazon. Like that became my intro to publishing. But what ended up happening, I'll keep it super short, is found myself in a really interesting position of being able to take my skills as a entrepreneur and a business consultant and bring it into the author community. So I have a private practice with 14 authors that are all doing mid figures and above. And I have a partner, Lisa, who is an accountant, and so we do their bookkeeping and their back office and work on strategy and all kinds of really cool, engaging stuff. And then a year ago, I took on the role of running the largest indie author conference in the world, Author Nation.
Which just happened this past Vegas and will be happening next Vegas. Is that November 3rd to the 7th?
Third, yeah. Let's look at the new calendar.
I know, something like that.
Yeah, it's like what's so funny is coming off of that show, and it was awesome to have you there, Willow. But we were like on the airplane. It was Suze, my wife, who runs the show with me, and Isabella, our assistant. And like we couldn't even put a sentence together between the three of us. But like we're trying to like get all the ideas out for next year. Like it had to be hilarious if you're the row behind us listening to us talk. Like, it must have sounded like the weirdest.
Imagine. It was a long week of like going and going and going and hearing this and making this plan. And I was furiously typing to Sophie as well as to Colleen with different ideas to implement to try to make sure I got everything down. And I haven't even watched the videos yet. I have a full list of back catalog panels I wasn't able to see that Sophie wants to watch as well. So very interesting. Why? Like what thought came into your mind of let me get all of these people? Because we know a lot of people in the industry. I think like I've been around for 9 years or so, Stacy even longer. You meet people here and there, you have conversations here and there, putting them all into one room together for over several days and asking them to all talk business.
In Vegas.
In Vegas.
Yeah. What gave you that harebrained idea for that?
100%.
Yeah. So, well, this is an offshoot of the conference that Craig Martell had put together. And I was asked to speak at that back in 2017. And I went to that event, and that was kind of a moment in the industry where some pretty magical stuff was happening. And as somebody who'd been to a lot of business conferences, to see a conference like that where there was this group collaborating and helping each other and sharing ideas was just amazing to me. And I was like, I got to be part of this. Like, I didn't know how I was going to fully, like, I hadn't even started my private client business at that point. I could see that, holy cow, somebody at this conference was going to come up with like generation wealth building
ideas,
iconic content, the kind of content and money that was going to make their grandkids all heroin addicts. like that kind of, right? Like,
well, we're on the full moon, so we're releasing that. If that's
I was like, wait, that has to be my grandkids. I can't.
Well, psychology and history will tell. But
yeah, maybe that has to be edited up. Harold Sheik is old, I know, but it may come back. But my point is like I could see that like we're in this golden age of content creation, and the indie people were the ones that were absorbing the business knowledge and collaborating in a way that was just giving them such a massive competitive edge that.
Well, did you find that indie authors are more open to new change? Like I find houses like they're maybe now starting, but back in that, probably when you first started, very set in like, this is how we do it. And I found indie authors are constantly willing to be like, what do we need to do? We want new ideas. How do we market? How do we change? Is that like,
yeah. And I think if you go back in time to 2017, like if you were in a trad house, you didn't even know this world really existed. Mm-hmm. And then as an indie, there were very few places where people were getting together and then like openly sharing ideas. Like I remember folks like doing a presentation on Facebook ads, right? Like, and showing their results like, hey, I just started running this program and this is what I'm spending per day. And this is how much money I'm making per week. And then that conversation going out of that to a massive conversation around the bar, like, how could I do that? And and like
that's our theme. That is the theme of this podcast. Is we're all at the bar. I am the only one with the cocktail today, but that's because I'm an overachiever.
I think I've got a bigger.
There we go. Okay, cheers to that. Author Nation has both. First of all, to Stacey's point, I think I'm doing this because Stacey is below here for me. I don't know if it will be.
It's funny because you're this way to me.
Am I there?
We're like the Brady Bunch.
I feel like traditional is now seeing what's working for indies, letting indies experiment, and then they're taking those ideas and doing it more efficiently because they have the means to do it. But at Author Nation, go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say a perfect example of that is, we had JD Barker at the show talking, and he's somebody that like very deep in the trad world. And he was talking about this hybrid deal he has with Simon and Schuster, where like he's running a big part of his business as like an indie would, but his print is actually considered an imprint of Simon and Schuster now. And that never would have existed.
Yeah.
Let alone a place coming together and talking about that. Right. So.
And I want to go even more minute into that, where you can have your own exclusive line of my print, but I get to keep my print that I have. And I think that some deals are going to end up being on that avenue, because I think that's the only edge right now that traditional publishers have over indies is the bookstore prints and the cost of creating prints, and particularly special editions. That was one of my predictions, I believe, in one of the panels.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that they're going to see in that partnership is you market better than they ever will.
Yes.
And they get to draft off of that. And I don't think they're really set up to do the kind of guerrilla marketing indies do. And so, they could try and replicate it, but it would be like a weird Frankenstein thing that would come out of trad. It wouldn't be the fact that like just partner with these folks, let them drive their brands, because first off, nobody cares about the brand as much as they do. Right. Whereas if you're go ahead.
I just found though that like indies start something, we're the start of the trend, and then house goes, ooh, that's a good idea, and we have money behind that. So I feel like with the special editions, indies started that, and now house is taking over, and because they have money more behind them, we get drowned out now. We can't.
And the availability. They just walk into Walmart and pick one up.
But we're going to get the new thing also. And we're going to keep doing that because we are innovative, and because that is a part of the challenge of being an indie romance author is what's next. It's exhausting. To the point of us driving our own brands, like that's a part of it. And also we are our books, and readers, especially nowadays with AI, and the way social media is, they want to know who's behind this book. They want to see that an audience who is being supportive and amplifying voices wants to know who it is. And a traditional publisher can't mimic that. They can't be the author, right? So they can't get access to certain audiences that are amplifying unless they have the author on board. So even though special, you know me, special edition, special edition, special edition. Last season, it was all I talked about. There's going to be more that's coming in our industry. I'm super excited about several things, in fact, which I will be quiet about on this podcast until it's live. But yeah, I have another question though for Joe that I've been sitting on.
All right.
Other
fire
than
away.
myself, who was your favorite person at the Author Nation?
Well, my wife, of course. But if
Other
you're
than
talking
your
about
wife.
Good answer. Good
Other than
answer.
Suze, yeah.
I think, and I had seen him present before. I think Drew Davis. I don't think you were there for that, but he did
I had
an
an
amazing
appointment.
job.
Yeah, I had an appointment during that was the opening
Yeah.
speech, correct?
Yeah, and he did a really amazing job of, like in this age of shortened attention span, how to use curiosity to really engage with people and keep them going. And it was funny as somebody running a show because you see all these the feedback come back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And by far this guy got more glowing reviews, like best thing I've ever seen, all this great feedback. There's always somebody that's like, yeah, why don't we, I would rather have somebody that's selling books. That didn't help me at all. And it's like, if you didn't get marketing out of that, if you didn't figure out craft out of that,
there are some people that will
stay at the
just
day
see
job.
they'll
right.
see a hump in the road, no matter how big it is, and just say that's my
Yeah.
stopping point. And I don't think there's
Yeah.
much you can do for that person in terms of getting them further until they can identify their behavior of doing that, which can be a
Yeah.
hard thing to do. I've recently went through that with trying to help an author and it just hitting a wall at everything and an excuse for everything. And it's like, yeah, if
to me after a while, you got to let those people go. They're willing to either jump on that journey with you, or they're wanting to find a reasons not to.
Exactly.
I think, that's so important to remember because like we collected a lot of data, session data, after show data, and you have to read through all that stuff and it can get really disheartening, right? And then you just have to like get over that energetic and be like, okay, 90% of these, or actually it was 83% of these people were satisfied or very satisfied, right? The 17% that weren't, we're leaving them behind.
Yeah.
They're not right. Like if as an author, if you knew 83 of 100 people reading your book were going to be satisfied with it, and 60% of those people were going to tell another person like them that they should read that book, like you've got a really powerful marketing engine there.
Yeah.
That's what our results told us, right? It's just as a person, as a creator, because we're creating this event, it's an experience, right? You always are like, well, these people aren't happy. I want everybody to be happy. And
that's why I don't look at reviews anymore. You got to stop looking at reviews.
Yeah. I mean, the first year, it's kind of like when we first started. When you first started, you looked at everything. I want to get like, maybe this will help me. This will help me. And then after a while, like while you're doing this and it works out, you're like, okay, I've got to let that go. Because there's always going to be, you're not going to, if you please everybody, there's actually something wrong. You
can't. You can't.
So,
what's that saying? You can't please everybody at one time, and you can't please one person at every time.
Yeah.
It's just what it is.
Well, so here's kind of a tech tip strategy kind of thing that like, if you don't want to read reviews, we're at a point now where we have this wonderful thing called AI. That you can run and scrape all those reviews and have it give it to you in a better format. Right.
Yeah.
So the idea of, completely ignoring your reviews, you get to a certain point in your life. Yeah, you can, because you're that successful. But if you're trying to continuously improve or learn how the market's changing, being able to go and do that and glean information from that, I think is important. And for us, understanding why a particular segment is not getting the full experience that we thought they were going to get is
Mhm.
important for us, right? Like, because otherwise they'll go somewhere else. And I don't want that.
I love that you brought this up, this little golden nugget, right? Because that's one thing I think you're known for, these little golden nuggets. And we do have a lot of authors who are listening. Do you have any free of charge golden nuggets that you would recommend for authors who might be listening right now?
Well, I'll get to one that you guys made me think about when you were just having this previous conversation about the difference between like trad house and
Mhm.
indie is I believe in this age of AI and social media and all the stuff that's going on, the intimate personalized relationship is what people are seeking. And if you asked me even 2 years ago that, how was I going to expect somebody to connect with a new young reader? I never would have said it's probably going to be at a live event with a special edition print book,
Mhm.
right? But that's what's happening.
Mhm.
So the nugget is lean into as an indie author how you can get as close as humanly possible to your reader, right? You could have the greatest IP in the world if you don't have an audience that's engaged with it, there's
It's
no
not going to go
value,
anywhere.
right?
Yeah.
Right? So bringing those two, like having those two assets, the audience and the IP, now you've got this onion that there's endless layers to how you're going to be able to peel it or slice it or dice it. And I think that, I, because we work together, like, I mean,
Yeah.
I understand you know this intimately and you are very focused on it. I think that too many people get sucked into what the platform's doing for them and forget that it's not about the platform. It's about another human being feeling like they're treated like a human being
Mhm.
and having an experience in your story world. Like that's super powerful. How's that?
100%. I also
Yeah.
love that you said that because there's a myth that if the book is good enough, the book will sell. And that's complete bullshit. And that it
Mm.
breeds imposter syndrome. The problem really is not connecting to that audience that is then going to go ahead and help amplify. Like we were talking about with the traditional publishers, they can never have access to the closeness that an author has with a reader audience that's amplifying, right? Our bloggers used to be bloggers, now book talkers and bookstagrammers and such. So 100% that we have an access to that they can't have because of that closeness. Even if we don't like some of them and we end up blocking them because they can be awful.
Well,
Cheating
like
love.
in my brain, like where you want to have your brand at the top of your reader's mind
Mhm.
and incepted in a way that they even know what to say. So when it
And
is
repeat.
four people hanging out, having a glass of wine, BSing, and that conversation shifts to what are you watching on Netflix? What books are you reading? That one of your fans says, "Oh, you have to read the next whatever book." Because that's what we're in a world now where then the person picks up their phone and orders that book, right?
Yeah.
Like it gets back to what I was talking about before with like, are we getting our author? It's one thing that they're satisfied, but are they willing to advocate for us
Mhm.
in word of mouth?
Yeah, because the
100%.
biggest sellers are the readers, not
Oh,
us. Like
absolutely.
Yeah.
I could sit all day and keep pushing my book, and I'll probably, I might not get any sales, but some reader over is like sitting with their friend having coffee, going, "Oh my God, you must read this book." Most likely, that friend's going to pick up that book.
Yeah.
So the
Well,
biggest sellers are the readers.
we've all categorized our friends and family, right? Oh, it's like we know the ones that if they say you should watch this show,
Hmm.
you go and watch it. And the ones that say you should watch this show, and you're like, now I
Absolutely not.
know, definitely do not watch it.
Yeah.
Right? It's
Yeah.
going to be dumber than I had expected because they
Oh my
love
God.
that show. Like they're going on about it.
Yeah. I mean,
Right?
even last night I had an Instagram live with a bookstagrammer named Leslie, and we are talking about my books that she's read because she just read my new release. And she said, "Well, I've read a ton of your back catalog, all," and she's going on about it. And then she goes, "Well, the first one I actually read, I was abroad and my roommate had your book And It's Our Secret. And that was the first book that I read of yours. And I was blown away that that today, or technically yesterday, I'm having an Instagram live set up by a PR, but she read me years ago from word of mouth. But word of mouth really is the most powerful tool that you can have. So that's why when people are steady keeping our names in their mouth, that's a good thing,
Yeah.
usually,
Yeah.
mostly.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's all kinds of psychology and behavioral stuff behind this. Why how we make decisions is really influenced heavily by others.
And
And
attachment, definitely attachment versus
yeah,
authenticity. Attachment generally wins out.
yeah.
Can I go back to like the whole, like, what made you put on this, and what, let's say, as an author like me, has not been, what to expect if I go to this, this event?
Sure. So, the previous show, the guy that was running it had contracts that existed, and because of health reasons, he had to stop running it. And so I decided to take over the contracts and kind of do a rebranding. I felt there was a lot of important things that were happening at the show. So this gets to why you'd want to go is, um, first off, it's got the largest group of indie authors. We had over 1,000 authors at this event. So your tribe is there, and you have everybody from people that have never published a book to folks that are making, you know, seven figures net, not just gross. There's a real focus on the business aspect. It isn't just about like hanging out with authors and, heavy craft or, there's no agents, there's no pitching, there's none of that kind of stuff. We're talking about, um, you know, hardcore business stuff like managing your finances. We're talking about advertising. We're talking about decisions around how to go to market. And then we're probably one of the most diverse in the sense of, um, I really believe that there isn't one true way to do this. So we need to give you this buffet to kind of pick through and decide what you want, because maybe the best thing for you is to just sell on Kickstarter. Maybe because of the genre you picked and the way you write, the best thing is for you to be in KDP. But let's give you a place to think through all that stuff. So to get more granular, how the week goes is Monday. There is a vendor day or industry day. So we have over 100 companies there that are selling services or software, and it's everybody from Amazon to people that do bookkeeping. And there's tables you can walk around and meet and talk, and there's booths. And so more kind of like a service expo. That's the first day. Then Tuesday through Thursday, we run this author education, and we have tracks on craft, advertising and marketing, productivity, mindset. And all in all, there is over 120 sessions.
Wow.
Okay.
It's a lot of sessions.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
options.
They're all recorded. So
I like that a lot,
later.
though.
Yeah.
I like that a lot, though. That there's that many options.
So there's pros and cons to this, right? With the fact that we're, we have multi-track, multi-idea presentation. You kind of need to go in and have a strategy on what you're going to get after at the show, because even if all you do is go to sessions, you're going to see about 23% of the content.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, I have a list of things where I knew I'm not making these. I had meeting after meeting after meeting. I said, I'm not going to make any of these. They're going on this list. And when the recorded panels are up and running, then I'm going to be able to watch it. And there's also live Q&As that you can attend after the fact as well. So you can
Yes.
watch the
Yeah.
content
That's
beforehand, figure
great.
out if you have questions, then go to the live Q&A to ask them. And for me, it was more worth it. If it's okay, Joe, if I kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
cut in,
Fire away. Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
more worth it for the immediate drinks with these people and the meals with these people because I've been to RWA back when it existed. I just recently went to RAM in Houston, Texas, somewhere in Texas. I think it was Houston. I've been to Reader's Take Denver, which I thought had the best industry side of romance signings that we'd seen in forever. I loved the industry side of it, apart from all of the other things that occurred at this event.
We just
Um,
smile and nod.
yeah, I know, right? Just smile and nod. Smile
Smile
and
and
wave, boys. Smile and wave, boys.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then Book Bonanza obviously had an industry component. None of those compared to the industry components that were at Author Nation. I had at all of those events, I met up with my author or my Amazon rep. I met up with my Amazon rep, another rep, and their supervisor at Author Nation because they were willing to attend this multi-genre larger event as opposed to going to RAM, where I did meet my author rep, and she literally said the conclusion of our meeting there was, you have to meet my supervisor. Can't wait to see you there, because that's where some more heavy conversations are able to be had. BookBub was there, Spotify was there. People like Ream, I was able to have drinks with, the owner and creator of Ream there. I was able to do live podcasts there. They're doing things at this event because it's larger and it's multiple days of just industry that we're not seeing in the romance space. And I loved RAM. Thought it was amazing. It was so small though, which has its benefits, but there are cons to it. So I think attending all of them, which is what I love to do, but I also love to travel. And I mean, it was Vegas too, right? So
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to say no to Vegas. And obviously, like I really did love Readers Take Denver. I thought it was phenomenal in terms of industry, but it's obviously not happening again. Book Bonanza was not purchased. It's not happening again. So there is no romance event right now, other than RAM, which I highly recommend. I loved it. That is anywhere near the capacity of what Author Nation was. So
Yeah.
those
I,
four
I,
days, I know you talk about it very logically, Joe, but from an emotional, exciting standpoint, it is in its own realm right now. I would love to have a romance only version, but I don't think we would get those people to attend,
you
unfortunately.
wouldn't, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
And you hit on such an important point. Like, you got to meet Dakota Kraut, who's
Hmm.
also a client. Like, he basically was similar to you. Like, he attended one or two sessions, other than the ones that he was actually speaking in, right? Because people
Hmm.
want to hear him talk about his business. But the rest of his time, he's doing meetings,
Yeah.
and like, that's what we're trying to facilitate at this event. Is, we had 23 people from Amazon
We
at,
had
like,
TikTok was there. TikTok
TikTok was
came.
there, right?
We'll
There,
see if they're
and
there
by the
next year.
I know,
well,
right? I hope so.
yeah, and part of that, what we're doing as facilitators of this is, and she runs our sponsorship side, is we're out at other shows, like way outside of the author world, trying to get those different folks to come to our event. Like, there was 4 or 5 people there that we gave tickets to, that our secret evil plan is to sell them a booth, right?
Yeah.
But like, okay, well, we'll get them to the show, let the show do the selling. When they see 1,000 authors walking around and realize, oh, there's all these entrepreneurs that are spending all this kind of money, they'll want to come back. But
Yeah.
to your point, I think that, what we did there was created a space where there's that network effect,
Yeah.
right? So, like, always keep in mind, if you're coming, and I think this gets back to you, Stacy, your question about like, why should I come, is like, it's a place for you to come and hear kind of what the latest is from these different companies. And when you're at a higher level, like, they're going to want to take you out for coffee and talk about, hey, would you like to be part of this program?
And the coffee's really
Or
good.
if
There's this restaurant named Amore. It was Mon Ami. Mon Ami. It was called Mon Ami.
Mon Ami, oh yeah,
Fantastic. I went there
yeah,
3 times. It was unreal.
She's like, and
yeah.
I was awake for
There's a lot of
5 days.
good.
Yeah.
That much coffee.
But then also, like, we've set up this space where, like, there's like all these like hangout spaces, like couches and stuff and tables. So like, if you're not, like, I'm the kind of person, I go to a lot of shows. I'm like a like a conference whore. I love it, but I rarely sit in sessions, right? Um, but I will sit out in the hall and talk to people for hours. And so that's something that we wanted to make sure you could do as well, is like, okay, can you get together with your little subgroup of people that are your peers and just hang out?
You
Because that's where the
mispronounced
magic
bar.
happens.
You said you was hall. I think what you meant was bar. No.
Right? I was
Just
like,
kidding.
um, but you get my point, is this whole idea of like, when you think about some of the collaborations you may have had in the
Yeah.
past that have been successful, they come out of those conversations. Maybe you got inspired by an idea in a room, but it's finding that person that, you have the spark with, that like, oh, yeah, let's give this a try.
Mhm.
And the other part that, going back to what you were saying, Willow, about the genre specific stuff, also limits you, because you don't get to hear the stuff that's going on in other places that is like, so you're telling me there's guys telling stories, writing and mailing them to people, like not email, print mailing, and making millions of dollars? Yes, there
Mhm.
are. Oh, let's meet that guy, right? Like those kind of conversations happen because they're cross genre, cross, storytelling mediums that you don't necessarily get at other events.
Yeah. I personally loved it. I
interesting.
do want to be a little bit of a messy boots. Can we be messy boots? So
Yeah,
you've been
yeah.
in the industry for a decade. Let's talk about high highs and low lows. We ask authors this, right? And the author, almost all of them have very similar in terms of low lows and high highs. You're coming from a different perspective. Can you think of, and you can always pass. I do always offer the
No, you
option.
can't. Sorry. Sorry.
I,
We
well,
want
I
to hear
painted
it.
you in the corner. Get out.
Yeah. What do you think? Do you want to start with high high?
So sure, fire away the question. What's the question
What's
is
your
what's the
high high and what's your low low of being in this industry?
um well, I've got to say this recent show was
Mhm.
probably the high in the sense of we put a lot of work into this thing, and like it was so smooth. It went off so well.
Yeah.
And there was so many people that wanted to see us fail.
Oh, so
Like
sad.
I come out of other industries, like I was in the oil and gas industry where we literally had sites blow up. We would have guys baby mamas show up in site and start beating on them. Like there
Jeez.
was
Sounds
there's
like a
days
book.
I know.
there's days I would go back to that than deal with some of the drama that happens in the author community. It's like,
Right.
oh, that's easy.
Right. We're very
um,
dramatic. Yeah.
so like co- coming into this industry, um, and seeing how there's sometimes where people want to see, like, what's so weird is the show being such an important part of the overall industry success,
Mhm.
and to see that people still want to see things not go well just because of change or fear of change. That's kind of weird to me. And then to be able to stick the landing as well as we did, I, that's probably the high point. I mean, I knew what we were capable of, but you know, so many times you don't necessarily see the full extent of that work come out, and we did. So that'd be the high. Now, low in the industry. Um,
Or you could talk about the most scandalous thing that you know that happened.
well, some of that.
There's
That's fun,
options
too.
here.
Now she's
We can talk
digging the
about
dirt.
both. I know.
We're like showing our
I have NDAs to
author,
honor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that kind of touches on the part that I think is the seedy underbelly of this industry is, um, there's so much bad behavior driven by fear,
Mhm.
um, and that makes it hard. And
Also jealousy.
Oh,
jealousy
yeah,
and yeah, desperation.
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that like in our case, you know, this change of the show really represented a massive change in the industry. Like it's all part of the change that's going on. Things are changing, and um, if you've chosen to be in this business, that's part of what you've chosen, is that you're going to be having to deal with two things that are really tough: constant change, and the fact that um, the reality of the market is that it's a power law curve, right? Very few people make money in this industry. That's how popularity markets work. And there's a lot of people that will go out and say, well, I did it, so you can too, right? That's not true. It's statistically impossible for all of us to be operating at the same high level, right? It doesn't matter what model of publishing, indie, trad, whatever. It's just how popularity markets work. There's going to only be one Taylor Swift. There can't be a million Taylor Swifts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you hurt yourself really bad when you compare yourself to Taylor Swift, right? You can't be like, well, I should have that too. There can only be one. But can you find a place where you and your business, right, are comfortable and satisfied, right? Quit comparing yourself to all those other people. And that's a part that now this kind of gets in a little bit of the drama, is like, I know for a fact authors lie.
Yes, they do.
They
We
lie
talk
about
about
how
it.
much
We
money,
lie about for business.
right?
We lie on
About how
paper
much
all the
money they
time.
make,
Oh,
how they're
yeah.
making money, what they're doing, right? So circling back on the show, that's something that I can help remedy, right? Is like, we can help vet and validate who's on stage and what they're saying,
Yeah.
right? And I think that helps. And my take on this has always been like, you're too crazy to not do this, right? Like, most people that have decided to go into this business, like, that decision's made. I can't stop you. Like, logic will not help. So how can we then make it as less painful as possible? How can we use business tactics and strategy and collaboration as a community to improve your probabilities of success? Because the beauty of where we are now today in this industry is, which you couldn't do to say 10 years ago, is you can find yourself, maybe you're not making the kind of money Willow's making, but you can find yourself in a comfortable lifestyle in a small niche that you really love to write. Like, there's a lot of people that are writing in some really niche down genres and
I've heard
doing
that
well.
there's door romance. That's a thing
Oh,
now.
yes.
That's very niche.
Like,
I'm just yeah. No, we hear
right. So
like
like,
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a misgiving, and maybe it's the way it's stated when they say, and I've always had a problem with this, and it sounds harsh, but they're like, there's room for us all. There isn't actually room for us all. There's room for everybody to write, but to be successful in this business, that's a whole other thing. And I think when people go, oh, we all need to accept everybody, there's room for us all, to make money, that's not true. Like you were
yeah.
saying, it's not
So,
actually. I
so
mean, to
here's
be like, I think because we all have the Taylor Swift in our head, like not the like,
right.
you know what, I'm happy where I am, you
Well,
know.
so here's the beautiful thing about where we're at today, and it kind of aligns with what you're saying, Stacy. If you just want to write the book you want to write, you can be on the world's largest bookstore today. No barriers to entry. You want to write about some weird ass stuff and throw it up there tomorrow? God bless America. You can do it. There's nobody stopping you. Oh, you want another human being to give you cold hard cash for that book?
Yeah.
Now this is a different thing,
Mhm.
right? They have to value what you do more than that money. There's two people in that decision, and the market is really efficient, right? And so that's the part that gets hard, because then when we start to make decisions about all the books that we can select from, right? When I started in this industry, which was not that long ago, it was less than 4 million titles. It's over 40 million titles.
Mhm. There's
Okay.
what, 4,000 new authors a day? on
Yep.
Amazon, just new
Yeah.
authors, not even
Yeah.
titles.
I mean, when I first started, you didn't like Amazon wasn't playing games. I mean, I would randomly be on the number one selling like on a Tuesday, 9 months after I release, it would just be all of a sudden like out of the blue, my third book is up on a list. Now you can't do that. Like there's so many people in the games that, the algorithms and,
Not
it's
just on
just so
Amazon,
tough.
but social
Yeah.
media algorithms as well.
Yeah.
And we are going to do a podcast on the evolution of social media in the industry as well, which I think will be very enlightening for people.
Or
But
making
what
me want to cry.
No.
Back in the day.
Literally, it used to be very different. But a lot of those changes have also occurred in other industries. And that's why I love grabbing people outside of our industry to work with, as opposed to staying within our industry, because it can be an echo chamber. So it's refreshing to get outside of our industry, chat with people, see what's going on, and pay attention. Even if you do end up comparing, what's the saying? Comparison is the thief of joy.
Joy.
But even saying that, when I compare myself to like Stephen King, what I come back with is he's failed more times than I've tried. Get up and keep going, because persistence really matters. And that's one thing Taylor Swift has done. She has persisted for sure through a number of things. But yeah, so I've loved everything that we've chatted today. Are there any take-home messages that you want anybody listening to hear?
Well, for those of you that are authors listening to all the author stuff, we would love to have you come next year to Author Nation in November. We also still have the digital tickets open, and you kind of briefly touched on the whole idea of like we have this thing called the after party, which is going to be the whole first quarter of 2025, where we're having live calls with the speakers for Q&A, and have a whole process of kind of like watch parties where you can watch with other authors and then get on those calls and really maximize the use of that content. So there's still some opportunity if you want to dip into the 2024 information and then 2025. For the readers, one of the things we also do is we have a reader event associated with this. We'd love to see you come out. We've got a whole bunch of stuff, some scheming we've been doing, some stuff that we're talking to Willow about.
Yes.
That's not ready to be launched, but
yeah, fun
it's
things.
very fun things,
Yeah.
like drones over New Jersey. We just won't know why they're there.
We just drop books instead.
Yes.
But it really ties into this whole idea of like, there's nothing better than you being belly to belly with one of your readers. How can we?
How about I sit on their lap?
Well, see, you beat me. There you go. There you go. And in certain genres, that's. But the whole idea of like how can we really craft a multi-genre reader event that changes the industry? It is just not things like, oh, it's the biggest, or oh, it's got more genres, or more. It's how do we make something that really drives the industry in a positive way for everybody, the showrunner, the authors, the readers, right? Like if we can get everybody where it's like the Venn diagram covers and like, oh, that was a really satisfying experience, then like, and everyone makes money or has an experience that they're willing to pay money for. Like that sounds like fun to me.
Yes.
Well, right now, I think we really need positive.
Yes.
There's going to be a lot of fight ahead. And I think just hearing like what maybe ways we can work around that, or, I think positivity right now is really going to have to be our guiding way.
100%.
I think, and I know Willow's super into all the manifestation stuff. But like, whether you believe in all the woo or just the fact that where you put your attention is where things happen.
Law of attraction.
Right? Yeah. We don't need to figure out why it works. You just need to understand that stuff does work. And I really believe that like, I have a vision of what the future could be in this industry. Okay. Now I could sit around and talk about it at the bar and say, wouldn't it be great if, or I can roll up my sleeves and get some people that have that same vision and go do it. And most likely, right? Like what most likely will happen
at a bar. People are going to start thinking we're alcoholics. I am going to say.
Yeah, but like what ends up happening is never necessarily what you plan, but it's usually better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being the one to do it because
Yes.
it's amazing. And I'm looking forward to 2025. And thank you for coming on the podcast. Guys, if you have any questions for Joe, drop them below or for us, and make sure that you like, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Were you going to say something, Joe? Go for it.
No,
Yeah.
no,
like
just
that.
happy to, just thanks. Thanks
Thank
for
you
being
so much
here.
for coming.
Yeah.
I actually
Thank
want to
you.
join next year. It'll be fun.
Yeah. Perfect.
All right. Bye.
Thank
All
you,
right.
guys.
Bye.